Why was Taehyung crying in the studio? The heartbreaking moment BTS fans never expected during their US comeback preparation. Los Angeles, California. A city known for its dazzling lights, industry power, and creative chaos. But this time, it held something far more fragile, a tear that slipped silently down the cheek of one of the most beloved artists in the world, Kim Taehyung, better known as V of BTS. What really happened that day? Why did Taehyung cry? And why has the moment shaken not only armies worldwide, but even the members who have stood by him for over a decade? There's a whisper going around Los Angeles, barely caught through backstage murmurs, quick glances exchanged in recording booths, and silent body language that speaks louder than lyrics. Taehyung isn't okay. But how could that be? The world only recently celebrated the full return of BTS, all 7 members together again after completing their military service. The long-awaited reunion in the US to prepare their upcoming album should have been triumphant, healing, even magical. Instead, something else slipped into the air. Something invisible but heavy: exhaustion. The truth began unraveling when Jungkook was seen quietly supporting Taehyung during a private recording session in one of HYB's top-rented studios in Los Angeles. While most fans were focused on their excitement for BTS's return, insiders were witnessing a very different scene. A moment not meant to go public, but it couldn't be hidden. Not when tears are involved. Not when the one crying is the same man who rarely shows such raw emotion unless it's something real. Something he can't hold back. Is Taehyung's exhaustion more serious than HYB initially revealed? What was Jungkook's reaction when he realized Taehyung had pushed himself too far? And how did the rest of BTS react when they found out what had truly happened in that studio? It wasn't until later that day that HYB labels confirmed the rumors that had begun to swirl. The company released a short but poignant statement. Taehyung is currently recovering after experiencing fatigue and emotional strain due to ongoing preparations for BTS's next major album. He is with the members and receiving care. But even that careful wording couldn't cover up the deeper story fans had begun piecing together. According to a source close to the production team, the moment unfolded like this. The members had been working tirelessly, sometimes 14 hours a day, in writing sessions, choreography polishing, and vocal recordings. Taehyung, who had recently recovered from a mild illness post-military service, insisted he was strong enough to join the full schedule. But something in his voice cracked that day. Not during a song, but between the takes. That's when Jungkook, ever attentive, placed his hand on Taehyung's shoulder. A silent moment passed. Then, a sound broke the room's rhythm, the unmistakable sound of someone trying not to cry. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was heartbreaking. Taehyung's body shook slightly as tears slid down, not from pain alone, but from pure emotional exhaustion. What exactly led to this breakdown? What was going through Jungkook's mind as he quietly moved closer to him, shielding his young from others' eyes? Was there something Taehyung had been hiding from everyone, even himself? Behind the glamour of comeback preparation lies the harsh reality of physical limits. And this time, even the golden magne couldn't pretend everything was okay. Stay with us, because what happens next in this story will not only break your heart, it might change the way you see BTS forever. Jungkook's silent promise. The moment that changed the energy in the BTS studio forever. The room was dimly lit with only a few spotlights casting soft halos around the sound panels. BTS had been deep in the creative process for days, the atmosphere thick with the electricity that only comes when 7 souls are aligned toward one purpose: music. But that particular night, something felt off. The cameras weren't rolling. The media wasn't present. There was no fanfare, only silence and the faint clicking of a laptop as the producer adjusted a backing track. That's when it happened, when the energy shifted completely. Taehyung, usually a pillar of calm and stoic poise, had kept to himself more than usual throughout the day. He smiled, laughed when expected, hit every note, and even played around with new melody layers. But those close to him, especially Jungkook, noticed the slight tremble in his hands, the way his shoulders seemed to carry a weight no one else could see. Jungkook had been observing him all day, eyes darting between his lyric sheet and his young, reading the unspoken signs like a secret language only the two of them understood. Then came that one moment, during a break in recording, when Taehyung sat down on the studio couch, placed his hands over his eyes, and exhaled a breath that sounded like defeat. And then, silently, he cried that it wasn't a dramatic breakdown. It was a surrender, a quiet admission that the pressure was no longer something he could bottle up. No words escaped his lips, only tears that clung to his jawline before falling onto his jeans. Everyone in the room froze, except Jungkook. Without hesitation, Jungkook walked over and knelt beside him.
He didn't speak. He didn't ask.
He simply placed one hand on Taehyung's back and the other over his own heart, as if to say, "I feel this with you." The youngest member of BTS, once a wide-eyed boy looking up to his hyungs, was now the protector, the shield in human form, and it was in that unspoken moment that something shifted between them. A silent promise. Jungkook wasn't going to let Taehyung fall, not on his watch, not during this comeback, not when he knew exactly what they had all sacrificed to get to this point, and how fragile the human body becomes when emotions run deeper than sleep. "I can't pretend I'm okay anymore." Taehyung's first words after breaking down hours later, after the studio had emptied out and the rest of the members were giving him space, Taehyung finally spoke. Jungkook sat beside him still, quiet as ever, but completely present. The only sounds were the soft buzzing of the equipment and the occasional creak of the chair beneath Taehyung's weight as he shifted. "I didn't want to cry here," Taehyung murmured. "Not now. Not when we're finally back together." Jungkook remained still, waiting. Taehyung took another shaky breath, his voice barely audible. "But my body, it's not catching up with my mind. I feel like I'm forcing myself to smile, to show up, even when I know I should be resting. I just didn't want to disappoint anyone." That last word hit Jungkook like a punch in the gut. Disappoint? How could Taehyung, the very heart of so much of BTS's artistry, ever think his struggle could be a letdown? Jungkook finally spoke. "You're not disappointing anyone, especially not us. You're human, Hyung." And that was the truth no one had dared say out loud until that point. Behind the curtain, how BTS's schedule took a toll on Taehyung's health. Fans have long speculated about the intense demands placed on K-pop idols, from grueling practice schedules to relentless promotional tours, from filming and rehearsals to personal appearances. But with BTS, the stakes are always even higher. Not only are they global icons, but their very name carries the weight of a movement, a symbol of hope, healing, and unity. After completing their mandatory military service, BTS members were expected to take a slow and steady path back to the spotlight. But insiders now reveal that their preparation for the new album was anything but steady. With HYB setting an ambitious timeline and multiple international recording sessions booked back-to-back in both Los Angeles and Seoul, the members were working on razor-thin margins of rest. According to a staff member who worked closely with the group over the past 2 weeks, Taehyung had been quietly struggling with recurring dizziness and fatigue. He wouldn't say anything, but we noticed he was often the last to leave the studio and the first to show up again in the morning, the source shared. He kept pushing, saying he wanted to make up for lost time. It's this kind of devotion that has always defined Taehyung, a man who blends artistic precision with emotional vulnerability, often to the point of burning himself out. And this time, the burnout wasn't just mental. It was physical, and dangerously so. He just kept saying he was fine. Jungkook's concern grows. Jungkook later admitted to those close to him that he had started noticing signs of Taehyung's fatigue a few days earlier. He wasn't eating properly. He wasn't resting between sessions. Even when we were done for the day, he'd sneak back into the vocal booth to re-record harmonies. Jungkook confided to a HYB official. The concern reached a peak when Taehyung reportedly collapsed briefly while stretching between sessions. Though he recovered quickly, HYB's medical team was immediately called in. The diagnosis? Exhaustion, dehydration, sleep deprivation, and emotional strain.